Good evening and welcome back to Review Morgue. And Jeanie, how is it going this
Yes.
evening?
A little rainy, a little thundery, a little
Yes.
lightning. It's all good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's good that most of the storm stuff has passed over us finally.
Yes.
So, and speaking of storms, because this movie we're going to talk about tonight had a storm in it. Um, but we are taking an interrupted break from the Roger Corman films because we had this other film that was done in England in 1960 called The Telltale Heart. So it's another Telltale Heart adaptation and it moves it, there are things that are very similar, but it really moves away from the general plot to me of the story. Jeannie, what do you think?
I think it was very indicative of the 1960s,
Yeah,
especially
yes.
1960, because from the most part of the movie, I felt like whoever wrote this was high.
Ah!
Because I was like, yeah, I mean, I could see it. I could see their interpretation, but yes,
Yeah.
it was basically the opposite mythos of what we know about Edgar Allan Poe, and they put it into the movie.
Yes. I totally
And
agree with that.
it it was it was very psychedelic. That's kind of what the word I was looking for. It was
Yeah.
psychedelic.
Yeah, in a way, I can totally see where you're going with that. It to me, it's kind of the beginning of those kind of films. Absolutely.
Yeah, you could definitely tell it was a product of its time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the early, you know, rendition of it.
Yes.
So the director of this film was Ernest Morris, and actually he did some other things that were much, much bigger than this film. He did The Return of Mr. Moto
Mm-hmm.
and The Saint. And if I'm
I
not
remember that one.
mistaken, yeah, and The Saint was with Roger Moore.
Mm-hmm.
And the Return of Mr. Moto, I forgot to look up who the actor was that played Mr. Moto, but I think didn't Peter Lorre originate Mr. Moto?
That's what I think.
Yeah, I think.
That's what I remember anyway.
Yeah, so just kind of neat because yes, we're taking an interrupted break from the Corman films, but Peter Lorre had his place in those, so just even though that he was not in that film, just to bring him up. So.
Yeah, he's connected somehow.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got all these degrees going on.
Mm-hmm.
So the actors in this film were Lawrence Payne, who played Edgar, who is right behind my head, as Jeannie just said when we first came on Zoom, that he looks like he's about to sniff my head.
Yeah, that
And
fits with the character.
yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. And so it's two of the movies that the bigger films than this that he did was The Crawling Eye, which was one of, B movie, horror film,
Hmm.
and then A Farewell to Arms. So we've
Oh
got
yeah.
Hemingway going on. And then Adrian Corey, I can't read my handwriting. I think it's Corey. Uh, she is to my
You're left.
Yes, my left. Thank you. I'm looking at this weirdly. She actually was in A Clockwork Orange and
Mhm.
she was in Dr. Zhivago.
Yeah, out of the three, she was the one I recognized the most,
Yeah, absolutely.
especially
Yeah,
the first time I heard her voice.
yes. And I remember reading the book Dr. Zhivago in college, and I couldn't wait to see the film. And I watched it like right after I read the book, and I that was just it was amazing, both the book and the film. And then the other actor to my right is Dermot Walsh, and he did other films such as Paper Gallows and Ghost Ship. And so they're
Mhm.
all British and they have more works than this, but I just basically wrote down just a few of the ones that I was either familiar with or seemed like that's what they were known for.
Yeah,
So, and then there were
they
other,
definitely were. Those were popular movies that people would probably recognize more than any.
I agree. And, there were other smaller supporting actors in the film, but these were the story revolved around these three.
Yeah,
And so I guess, Jeannie, where do you want to begin with this?
let's start at the beginning.
And I want to preface this. Many times we talk about this before we record. Tonight, I have no idea what Jeannie thinks, and Jeannie has no idea what I think. So this is going to be an interesting conversation.
Exactly. So the one thing I do want to point out first is on the movie posters, they have that, adapted from Edgar Allan Poe's Telltale Heart, right?
Yes. Yes.
If you look at in the movie, in the beginning credits,
Mm-hmm.
where it says adapted from Edgar Allan Poe, they misspell the Allen in the
Oh,
beginning credits.
I did not catch that.
Yes, they made it Allen, but they
Okay.
spelled it correctly on the posters. I
That's
thought that was kind
funny.
of interesting.
It
But
really
yeah,
is. Yeah, that is very interesting that they would have not,
caught that.
checked that. Yeah.
But that there's two different departments there. One's
Right.
PR, one's, cinematography. So that would be totally two different things. Could have been just how it is when you're reading something, you kind of just glance over it and don't pay attention.
Yeah. Well,
But
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, one thing I want to mention that I really liked right off the bat was, the opening scene, you've got a horse and buggy coming into the town, and when they're passing by this wall, it says Rue Morgue. So I liked that they gave another nod to Murders in the Rue Morgue through this film. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah. At one point that I did like that, but at the other part I was like, are you trying to bring in way too many elements and
Very
crossing
true.
over?
That is
So
very true.
so
And oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was just gonna say that in the beginning it was first of all, I can't remember the dude's name. I'll just say Edgar. The guy that
Yes.
played Edgar is a phenomenal actor for one, because he's very emotive,
Yes.
more so than any others that we've seen other than Vincent Price.
Yes.
Uh, and his his body, his facial, his just whole thing kind of carried a lot of the movie
Yes.
to the point to where at one time I was like, am I watching a silent movie?
That's a
Because
really good point. Yeah.
it got so there was like no dialogue for like it felt like 20, 30 minutes at the beginning of the movie,
Hmm.
or the dialogue was so sparse that I was waiting for it to pop up on screen so I could read it, because it's very lack in people talking.
That is very true, especially with him. Many shots were of him And,
Mhm.
one thing we can share about the movie, he lived alone. He did have a housekeeper, but he
Mhm.
did live alone. So it made sense that what you're saying, they're showing him by himself, and he's obviously not talking to himself, at least not yet. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
but that's what bothered me at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That one thing. Then the other thing that bothered me at the beginning of the movie is it's nighttime. He's in
Yes.
bed, he's asleep.
Uh-huh.
Then he starts screaming after he has this nightmare, right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, if he lives alone, no one else lives with him, his housekeeper doesn't live with him, his friend doesn't live with him, and all of a sudden, in comes his friend, in comes the housekeeper in his room.
Yes.
And then you hear the housekeeper, Mr. Poe, and then
Yes.
I can't remember the friend's name. Why
Carl.
can't I
I think it
remember
was
his name?
Carl. Yeah, it's Carl.
Yeah, Carl.
Yeah.
So Carl comes in. He's like, Edgar, what can I do? What do I need? And he's like, give me my medicine. Give me. And then, of
Yes.
course, Carl goes and he pulls out of the drawer. And this is the first where it indicates that the mythos comes in.
Okay.
It's drugs,
Yes.
but these are the sniffing drugs. This is where the 60s come into play, is what I'm saying.
Yes, very true. Okay. Yes.
Because,
Yes.
because usually, tranquilizers in those days, they were pills.
Yeah.
He did
Or it
not
would have
take
been
pills.
laudanum and it would have been liquid.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It was neither. He
Yeah.
sniffed it.
Yeah,
So,
that is true. Yeah.
so I was a little put off and a little confused at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next move in, it's like then uh whatever her name is.
Betty.
What was her name? Betty. Yeah, Betty. I don't know why I keep forgetting her name. Betty shows up the next day but what really got me is when Edgar is sitting at the window and it got that rear window feel of Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, yes.
And
But
he
well,
had went to the bureau and pulled out a folder
yes.
or a portfolio. And
Yes.
he was sitting in his rocking chair, opening the portfolio, and all of a sudden he's got all of these pictures, and one is of a woman laying on her side naked,
Yes. I thought that was
looking
odd
dead.
too. Yes.
And I was like, so now we're going from him being a drug addict to him being a possible serial killer.
Yes. And stalker and
Yeah.
everything else. Well, and so when that happened, when he went to the window, I was getting, of course, I of course always think of Rear Window, but I only thought about that for just a half second because when, he hadn't met Betty yet, and she was undressing across the way, and their windows met up, exactly parallel to each other.
Mhm.
And I was getting Body Double, the movie Body Double vibes.
Yeah. There was that too, but the rear window, it hit me more because of him looking at the picture and him being in the
Yeah.
rocking chair by himself.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
and I can totally see that. Yeah, I just because it was kind of like creepy. That's
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
And
it was
then, they have him go to a bar and
yes.
he's always drinking alcohol. So
Mhm.
that's the next thing. So you
Right.
got him sniffing drugs, you got him possible serial killer, you got him an alcoholic.
Yes. Yeah,
So we got all this stuffed in here.
I kind of was like, okay, where is this going to go? And is he going to end up being a serial killer? And yeah, I was just like, okay, this is interesting with, they have set up so many different things that he could actually be. And
Yeah, and the one thing that really I thought was brilliant on their part is they kept the premise of the essence of Telltale Heart with the blue eye driving him mad,
Yeah.
the narrator mad. But this time they took it on as it's not the pale blue eye, but it's rather the lack of, or the triangle trifecta of the
Yeah.
love triangle.
Absolutely. It was more about Betty, the obsession
Hmm.
with Betty. Yeah, I
Exactly,
agree.
because he went to stalkerish world.
Oh,
So
yes. Oh, yeah. He
yeah,
definitely crossed over and came back and went back again.
yeah. And then with Carl, and then he came up with this bright idea to use Carl to help him get back into Betty's good graces.
Right.
Instead of doing that, he got Carl in Betty's good graces. Pun intended.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I want to mention as well is that, going back to what you said about the beginning, when the housekeeper and Carl came in, at that point we didn't realize that Poe lived alone, and it was odd finding out later that he did live alone, and they were there. It kind of made no sense because he was in the bed. And
Hmm.
so and with her screaming out, Mr. Poe, Mr. Poe. But then when he actually introduces himself to Betty, he introduces himself as Edgar Marsh.
Yes.
And so
Uh,
that threw me.
Well, that did it first, and then I realized, wait a minute, this isn't what it seems.
Right,
Because
right.
that's when my mind clicked, going, oh wait, this is where they flipped the script, so to
Yes,
speak.
yes.
And it kind of bothered me really, really badly
Mm-hmm.
when they did that,
Okay.
because I was like, because they had it, the nightmare kind of gave the story away at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Because it starts with his nightmare, and then the housekeeper calling him Mr. Poe, Mr. Poe, and then Carl saying Edgar. So you know that that's where he was introduced as Edgar Poe.
Right.
But then, as you said, when he introduced himself to Betty and everybody else, everybody called him Mr. Marsh, or,
Mm-hmm.
he said, my name is, Edgar Marsh.
Right.
And it was like, And instead of him being a critic, they had him as the librarian, which I thought
Yes.
that was kind of cool with that.
I like that too.
And he was well off. That was another thing that they made opposite.
Yes.
Instead of him struggling, he was actually very well uh centered, I guess we can say,
Yes. Well to
in the money
do.
world.
He was
Because they
well.
made it out like Carl, he was always bailing Carl out of his troubles.
Right. And it was like, yeah, Carl seemed to come from either a good family and he's
Hmm.
just gambled all his money away or just wasted
Hmm.
all his money away, or he was someone that he didn't seem like Carl worked real hard. So I
Right.
gather he came from money and squandered it, is how I felt.
Exactly.
And then Edgar, like you said, bailed him out. Now, one other thing too that hit me like halfway through, and this has nothing to do with the movie necessarily. It does, but it doesn't. But if this is Edgar Poe, it is Edgar Poe sans mustache, which I
Yeah.
thought was interesting. And so, because I, how old would you think his character was in this? I kind of pictured around like 40-ish at when Poe died. Is kind of
Yeah,
how,
I was thinking like mid 30s.
yeah, something like that.
And another thing that really struck me with Carl's character
Hmm.
is I got two vibes from Carl's character. One, he felt to me, because the Rue Morgue thing, he felt to me as he was a stand-in for the unnamed narrator for Dupin.
Yes, yes, and
And at the same time, he also, instead of being the unnamed narrator in Telltale Heart, he was the pale blue eye.
Yes.
So he played like a dual role for me in that story.
Yeah, and I can totally see that. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Now the gendarmes, I
Yeah.
really I really did like the gendarme. I did like him. He was hilarious.
Oh yeah, he was.
He was like one of the best in the whole thing, along with Edgar's character. Like I told, he was an emotive, so he was more of a body actor.
Yeah.
He very much was a reactive and in the moment. Now
Yeah.
I will say that Betty's character, after about the second scene, I started disliking her so much.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, hold that thought because I want to add something else about Carl before we move to Betty. So
Okay.
another vibe I got of them was Edgar was kind of like Dorian Gray before Dorian Gray fell into hedonism.
Hmm.
And Carl was like Lord Henry, that character who kind of was pulling him into debauchery, in a way, highly suggesting it. And it just, I don't know, it just, I got vibes. It's not a full on vibe, but there were notes of it.
Yeah, it will. I kind of see where you're going with that, but at the same time, I felt like at the dance hall, Edgar was pulling Carl towards Betty, so he wanted to show that he wasn't completely isolated and a stalker.
Yes,
But
yes.
Carl was trying to keep Edgar out of his world.
Yes, that's what I say. There were some vibes there, some notes, I guess would be the better way to say it.
Yeah.
And but it just, I don't know, that it just kind of clicked in my brain while I was watching it. But
Yeah.
yeah, but let's move on to Betty. So you said the second scene you started disliking her. So what
It was after the scene where Edgar walks her to a door, and that whole thing, because at that point you're seeing they're pulling in more of Edgar's psychosis,
yes.
like his aversion, his obsession with women, but his aversion to women.
Yes.
It's like he was a push pull.
Yeah,
He wanted so much to be emotive and be with a woman, but at the same time he was scared to death of women.
exactly. Yes.
So what happened in the door, I was not shocked for, but it was
Hmm.
the next scene back at the flower, and it was
The
just
flower
like her
market. Mhm.
body language and everything just changed, that I didn't feel like it was acting. You know
Interesting.
what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I felt like there was a lot of animosity coming through that wasn't in the character. I
Okay.
felt more as her as an actress was animosity coming in.
Okay.
And it kind of started turning me off.
Okay.
And then at the dance hall, when she started basically throwing herself at Carl.
Oh yeah, it was so obvious.
Yeah. And then I, I did like Carl's character.
I did too.
Even when he was a two-faced friend,
Yes.
I still liked his character. But for some reason, she just started getting off-putting
Hmm.
in the whole story.
Yeah.
And because when Carl disappeared,
Hmm.
you know, after they had made plans that they were going to run off and get married and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
and then she automatically runs to the gendarme to say that he's been gone, he didn't contact me, he didn't tell me, and then they're like, well, that's Carl,
Yeah.
you know, he's
He's
a
done that with multiple
womanizer.
women.
Exactly. So you're what makes you special,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But this
Yes.
is where in the part of the story that I really enjoyed the special effects that they put
Yes.
in.
I totally
I
agree with
don't I
you.
don't want to give away this part, so I'm just
Yeah.
gonna say special effects. Um, and this is where Edgar's character, the actor, really, really brings him into play.
I think so too. I would have really liked to see, let's see, what was his name, his real name? Lawrence Payne. I would have loved to have seen Lawrence Payne actually to have acted in this story, the real Poe story, the real
Yeah.
Telltale Heart, as the unnamed narrator and the caretaker of the old man, because I think it would have been like an amazing performance.
Yes, he would have done an excellent job for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
But he actually portrayed that, even though this was like a parody, we're gonna say just say a parody
Hmm.
of the story,
Yeah.
and he still brought those main elements of the Telltale Heart into play.
Yes.
And it was, now I did get a little unnerved, I guess
Hmm.
you want to say, about the picture on the wall that goes up the staircase, the big picture of the woman's
Yes.
face
Yes.
of this older lady, that he would stop and he would rub his finger against her cheek. That was just
Yes.
creepy as crap.
And yes, and he did it especially after staring at Betty undressing and all that.
Mhm.
And it's just like, who is this woman? And so then I was thinking, okay, she's too old to have been a wife that died. And
Mhm.
the story indicated that he has never been married. And
Right.
so was this his mother? Was it, representing Muddy? Like, if you
Yeah,
look at,
I got the muddy part more than I did anything.
yeah. And so, yeah, so it was just like, and then so of course that brought me to, Psycho Norman Bates vibes.
Yeah, that was the thing that hit me most, because he does have that Norman Bates look,
Yes, he does.
and
Yes.
it's like, well, okay, well, we're going that route too. So,
Yeah, and I think
uh,
Psycho came out in 1960, I believe. I think that's the year it came out. I'll look it up real quick.
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, so I mean that
Um,
even and that would have been American film. So,
mhm. Well, and another thing, and
yeah,
this
1960.
is yeah, this is one thing that kind of it kind of I couldn't reconcile with it, and it just kind of bugged me. Is now he had a wash basin in his room. You know, the old timey big porcelain pitcher with the big tub,
Right.
porcelain tub that you pour water in to wash your hands and everything.
Hmm.
But then right across the hallway, there was a sink with a spigot that he turned on and turned off.
Yeah.
I'm going, why? I mean, what? Because I'm like, why would you have a sink with with the actual turn spigot? Because most of the time they were pumps,
Right. Yeah.
and a wash basin in the lip. And I was like,
Yeah, that
okay,
that
that just didn't really mesh with me. It was
yeah.
like a disconnect. And I know why they did it, because they used the dripping of the water as one of the psychological parts
Yes. To drive him
to
mad.
yeah, the beating of the heart, the dripping of the water,
Hmm.
those kinds of things. But it was like,
Yeah, and I
weird.
loved, like you said, all the special effects with all the different noises
Mhm,
and showing different things that were going on in the room that
mhm.
either he was making it up in his mind or things were falling over or something like that. Uh,
Exactly.
Now, one thing I wanted to go back to with Betty as well is that Edgar was so shy and he lurking after her, and she had just come in new to town. I think she had said at one point she had only been there a couple of weeks to the gendarme,
Mhm.
and and then he told Carl about her, And Carl's like, oh, you've got to just go do it. Go talk to her. And, just do it. Be bold. And I feel like it might have been a better setup. And I know it was probably a time thing, but I think to show his, like, his shyness, over shyness, I think it would have almost been better for him to, like, have been lurking after her at the flower shop more than once, or, going up to her and maybe like stuttering, or,
Yeah.
losing his words, at least one time before he just automatically said, I'm going to follow what Carl says and go out there, because I don't feel like a person like that has lived alone and he's so scared of, women, and it was very obvious from how he was acting. I don't think he would have been able to do it one at that one time and convince her to go out with him.
Yeah. It was it was very much to where there was this slow lead in to his lack of womanizing,
Yeah,
up until all of a sudden he kind of overcome all of his fears and was able to speak with her, and then
yeah,
started hanging out with her, taking out to dance halls. And so it
mhm.
kind of, it's like we went from 0 to 100 in a minute, and then
One
next thing you
night. Yeah,
know we're going, yeah. It just
I
didn't, it
agree.
didn't fit with the narrative, and I agree with you there. It was just not kosher.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. I wasn't a fan of Betty as well. At first, I felt sorry for her because she was being lurked at, through the window, and it's like,
Hmm.
you don't deserve this. But then when how she eventually treated Edgar, and things that happened after all of that,
Hmm.
she became an unlikable character.
Yeah, and part of it, I know they did that on purpose for the story. They
Yes.
made her a deliberate gold digger, for
Yeah.
lack of a way of saying it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but at the same time, like I said, it was, there was just something about her that just was put me
Yeah.
off of her. And because it was like a reality, like the way
Mhm.
she was treating Edgar's character on the set.
Yeah.
It wasn't Edgar, it was like she really had animosity toward the actor himself.
Yeah. That's interesting because, I mean, that sometimes can come through on
Mhm.
the screen.
Yes, and but I agree with you. I mean, yeah, I was sympathetic with her at the very beginning, because you could see where the stalkerish ways were coming in for Edgar, and how because at first I was like, all right, is he just stalking her to try to kill her?
Right.
Or is he,
Yes.
stalking her because he really likes her? And then you find out that, yes, he truly is falling for her,
Mm-hmm.
especially when he goes to the jeweler and wants to and pays to have. You couldn't really tell if it was a pendant or a ring that
Yeah.
he was, it just, you see the stone, and all the jeweler says is he will have it set for him. But he
Exactly.
doesn't say whether it's a ring or a necklace.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that's
nothing
true.
ever comes of that. So that's one of the things that
No.
left me like, okay, you didn't conclude that.
Yeah.
Uh, so, but yeah, the gendarme, I will say the one thing that really confused me was the murder weapon.
Yes. I would totally agree with you on that.
Because I'm going, um, okay, if that's supposed to be a fire poker,
Uh,
why why is it got a curve in it like that? Because it had almost a 90-degree curve.
yeah, I thought that was a weird weapon as well.
Yeah, because I'm like, at first I thought it might have been like a saber. That's what I thought it was.
That's what I thought as well too. But then
But
it
then,
wasn't.
yeah, but then at the same time, it's like, wait a minute, pokers are not designed like that. That's
Hmm.
not a fire poker. And plus, as him using it as a weapon, it would not have bent like that because pokers are made out of iron,
Right.
and iron doesn't bend.
Yeah. And so my thinking was that was the only weapon, that he had in the house
Mhm.
to be able to kill.
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand that and I agree with that, but it just that's the one where the prop department just failed completely.
Yeah, I think they could have done much better with that as well.
And the one thing another thing that really bothered me is where he grabbed the knife and to cut out the heart, right?
Hmm.
And he makes this giant X in the middle of his chest.
Yes.
And I'm thinking to myself, dude, this is where anybody that knows anything about anatomy is where you lost people. Okay, because one, with a a big kitchen knife, you can't make a giant X like that and just pull a heart out
Right.
intact. Because you got
Yeah.
to go through the ribs or you got to go up underneath the rib cage and you got to pull and you got all these entrails and all this kind of stuff. No, it's not going to come out that perfect of a heart
Oh no.
and get it out that quickly.
Yeah,
And there'd
well,
be a whole lot more blood than what was shown.
oh yeah, and well the breastbone would have had to been broken. The sternum
Yeah,
to
the
be able to,
sternum, that's what
yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah.
But you
That
you
never
can.
happened.
Yeah, that you can go up through, like underneath
Right.
the rib
True. Yeah.
cage. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. But you'd have to go through the stomach, the entrails, the liver, and all that. So you'd had a lot more carnage
Oh
than
yeah.
just a giant X. And especially when you next see the body again,
Yeah.
the
Don't give
body
too much
has this.
away.
I'm not. The body just had, I mean, the picture is right there on my thing
I
of what it
know.
looks like.
Oh yeah.
So the giant X on his chest is healed so perfectly. A
Yes.
dead body does not heal.
No. And
Okay.
what I felt like too is it almost looked like it was stitched up after he had pulled it out. Is
Yeah, but
what it
that's
looked
when I
like
was
to
like,
me.
no, the man was crazed.
Oh
He
yeah.
was thinking he was hearing a heartbeat and all, he was crazed. There's no way he's going to take a time and stitch a body back together.
Oh
And
no, but
it's
that's just
not
saying
going
that's
to
what it
look
looked
that
like.
way.
It's what it looked like.
It just that's where the inconsistencies started getting me, and I was like, well,
Yeah.
you're losing me.
Oh yeah.
And
And
if it wasn't for his acting, I would just been totally put off the whole movie with like, oh no, whatever.
yeah. Now I will say this. I really loved the scenery. I thought it was really done well. The only thing that confused me is that, they were all British and it says Rue Morgue. So are we in France? Where are we? So that was
Mhm.
the inconsistency. I know they're paying homage and I like that, but it's like give somebody a French accent. But
Mhm.
the other thing, I love the scenery. I love the costumes. She, like Betty, was always just the outfit, the costumes that she wore. They were absolutely beautiful.
They
And
reminded me so much of My Fair Lady with Audrey Hepburn.
yeah, that's a good comparison.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But she was always like, dressed to a T. Her hair was always done nicely. I
Mhm.
felt like the level of dresses that she had for her to just be working in a flower shop seemed off. Like you would think that her dresses would have been plainer, because obviously she wasn't in an upper class if she's working in a flower shop.
Right, but I got the feeling that when she arrived, remember she had that giant trunk?
True. Yes.
So it gave me the vibe that where she
Hmm.
came from some type of wealth and brought it with her.
Very
And then
possible.
because she said that she was lucky enough to get a job at the flower shop like the next day after she got there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think that was one of the things that wherever she came from, she brought the elegance with her,
Yeah.
like she was running from somewhere. But then it
Yeah.
kind of fits with her personality, the way she attached herself to Carl.
Absolutely.
Even though Edgar was the one with money,
Right.
she was more drawn to Carl, and that's where I started getting the gold digger vibe.
Yeah. Well, and then once Carl was gone, Edgar tried to, get things going with her again. And to some degree, she was going back to him. But she,
Hmm.
she still was like, where'd Carl go? Did he just dump me? What exactly happened to him? And so it was like, yeah, and I think that especially right there does give the gold digger vibe. It's like it solidifies, but what we
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, because she is like obsessed with Carl,
Hmm.
but you're like, yeah, you don't know you know him like less than you do Edgar, so it's
Right.
like, what the heck? And
Yeah.
but you could tell that she was trying to get Edgar to admit that he did something to Carl,
Right. Exactly.
because
Yes.
she was that's where she was going with that, and you're like,
Hmm.
oh well.
Oh yeah.
Because the gendarme told her that she needed more evidence. She needed something that they could investigate. And that's when she started, well, she broke into Edgar's house and started searching the house and
Right.
found the fire poker
Yeah.
and brought it to the police station.
Hmm.
And the junior gendarme told her, well, I'll show this to him, but I don't know what good it's going to do, because and then he tells her, you can't just bring us something that's not going to give us well, he doesn't say probable cause, but
But
this
basically,
isn't, yeah, basically it's not going to give us probable cause just to go in and search his house.
yeah.
This doesn't tell us anything.
Hmm.
So it was, it did speed up and it did flow very well. That's the one thing I did enjoy, is there was no, except for the very beginning when I thought I was watching a silent movie.
Yeah.
Uh, even thinking I was watching a silent movie, it still had good flow.
Yeah, it did. I thought so as well. And and we're about to get to our calls and hisses here.
Hmm.
And eh, I was gonna say I'll save my thoughts. I don't want to give
Yeah.
anything else away.
Yeah,
Um,
because I don't want to talk anything about the ending because I think
no,
people really need to watch this just to get the full vibe.
I agree. And the only thing I'll say about it, and I'm not gonna say the title, but to me there was one other link to Poe from another work that he did in this film. And I think it has to do with the beginning and the ending. And I think
Hmm.
you'll get what I'm saying without me
Oh
saying
yeah,
it. Yeah.
I
But
agree. I
I
mean,
agree. People need to see it on their own.
yeah, because it was the one thing, like I said at the beginning, when you definitely get the 60s vibe, the psychedelic,
Yep.
it fits very much with that. So,
Yeah. All right. So you're up first tonight. What are your
okay.
calls and hisses?
All right. Well, I'm actually going to go for 5 Raven caws.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Because the only reason it's not getting six is there was a few things that I think they could have done better. Like I just said, with
Yeah.
the heart, the other things, it just There was a few too many inconsistencies, but
Mhm.
it wasn't enough to put me off of the story.
Yeah, no, that makes
It
sense.
the five that I think I'm really pushing for is because even though this was not straight Telltale Heart,
Right.
it did pull all the elements of Telltale Heart and had them represented very
Mm-hmm.
well in the
I
movie.
think so too. Yeah.
And the actors were spot on. Like I said,
Yeah.
Betty was the only one I kind of just had a little not really liking to a lot of, but
Yeah.
I think it was more about the actress so much more than about Betty's character.
Yeah.
And so, but the black cat hisses, I am going to give it a three
Okay.
because of, like I said, there was a lot more inconsistencies than I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, yes, there were nods to the Rue Morgue and a nods to a few other things, they just did not fit. I
Yeah.
did not like how they just tossed that in there. It's like if you're making a salad, but then you've got this really good chef salad. You've got all the right ingredients, all the good, and then you just like toss in chickpeas. And you're like, why you don't want to put chickpeas in a chef salad? It just doesn't work, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why three black cat hisses is my
Okay.
thing. So
Okay. All right. So for me, I'm also going to go with five Raven calls for many of the same reasons as you. I thought the acting was very well done, the directing too. I think,
mhm.
the director of the film, I really think, Ernest Morris,
Or
he did a really good job, I think, with creating this story and directing the actors to do what they did, and especially Lawrence Payne, who played Edgar. I
mhm,
totally agree with you, Jenny. He was spot on, but I also liked Carl as well. And uh, it was, I kind of, at first, when I went into watching this on Tubi, because we got to watch it for free,
mhm.
it had the colorized picture of, I don't want to give, well,
The
it's,
yeah.
yeah. And it just, I was like, is this a color film, or is it black and white? And so I was, for number one, I was surprised that it was in black and white. Not really surprise, but I was expecting it to be colored. And so I was like, oh, this is a welcome change because I love black and white movies. And so that kind of threw me for a minute. And then I don't know, the picture of that they used on Tubi, it made Edgar look, obviously mad, but
Mhm,
it threw me off to think that it was going to be more of a slasher film. I just had this vibe of that from and again, I judged it based on that one picture. And so
mhm.
I was pleasantly surprised, and I really enjoyed it a whole lot more than I thought I would. Um, and so with Black Cat Hisses, I'm probably going to go with two. I think some of the things that you didn't like, it didn't bother me as much, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
again, I didn't care for Betty almost through the whole thing, but I thought she did a good job. But I can see where you're going with it. Almost seemed like she had aversion to the actor, Edgar.
Yeah.
And maybe she was just playing it up that well. Um, but yeah, there's a few things that I was I can't put my finger on it. I didn't think that the Black Cat Hisses there was enough for me to go over two, just
Hmm.
because I didn't like the whole stalkerish, creepy, you know, Edgar.
Yeah.
Because to me, if they really meant this to be Edgar Poe, this was not who he was, and so that bothered me. But again, it was a slight part that they kind of moved on with. It wasn't like you suggested of him being a serial killer and he's, lurking and stalking other women.
Hmm.
And so he just became obsessed with Betty.
Yeah, and I was actually surprised also that it was black and white because I played it and then I
Yeah,
stopped and I rewound it and I played. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's black and white, and I
yeah,
was like, well, that's fine.
yeah,
But I was like, wait a minute, the Vincent Price Roger Corman was in color.
right.
So, but then at the same time, you have to think, was it originally filmed in color or did they go back in Technicolor?
True. I really think they filmed it in black and white. I think they just
Yeah,
for the Tubi, picture,
yeah,
or maybe just how they present it on any channel, they just have that red all over the picture to advertise it. And
true. And also, this was filmed in England,
right.
so they may not have had as much leeway with the color at the time for
True.
filming.
Yeah, because one thing I forgot to look at what was the film production company, but then
Hmm.
but then think about it. Hitchcock was still doing black and white. Psycho was in
Yes,
black and white,
yes,
and so it was still a trend. Black and white, I think, was starting to fade out, and pun intended. Uh,
yes.
and more colorized films were coming on board. I mean, even some of the 1950s films are colorized. So are
And
technical.
it also probably had a lot to do with budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was very expensive for
Yeah.
color
Yeah.
because it was a trend. Because I mean, televisions were just becoming popular in the 50s, and
Right.
not they were not in every household. They were only like in 10 to 15% of households for
Exactly.
televisions, and they were all black and white because
Yeah.
when people started being able to afford color televisions, that was like, wow, they were like $600-700, and they're like, nope.
Yeah.
So, but
Exactly.
I will say that I was pleasantly surprised by the movie,
Hmm.
and it would be one that I'd be willing to watch again.
I
So,
agree with you on that. And it was a nice interruption from Corman.
hmm,
And
yes,
because honestly, if this one was really bad, I was going to be like, why did we even bother? But yeah, we had to bother. And so,
yeah,
yeah,
it fit. It definitely fit.
yeah.
So,
So I'm glad we took the time to watch it and review it. It was definitely worth it. And yeah, what one thing we might want to add to each of our review morgues from now on is, would we watch the film again?
hmm,
And
I
this one,
think that would be,
yeah, I would.
yeah. I mean, it definitely um would deserve a rewatch because
Yeah,
I would look at it from a different aspect and try to find things that I might have missed the first time.
yeah, me too. Because then I started thinking about it. How many other Poe nuggets might have been floating
Mick.
around in there
Hmm.
in Edgar's, room that we missed?
Exactly. And like you said, he definitely has the same vibe as Norman Bates. He's got
Hmm.
that same look,
Oh yeah.
same style. And actually, when I'm looking at him now, he reminds me of Randolph Mantooth from Emergency
Oh, that's funny.
because he got kind of like the same facial
Yeah,
symmetry.
yeah.
So, but
Oh,
anyway,
funny. Well, I guess on that note,
that note,
Jeanie, we
we are
are
Poe out.
out.